Heads up, because you are in the Hoodwood. I'm the Black Bandit KJ Green, welcoming you to another edition of Sports from the Hoodwood. Coming up in this edition, Washington finally decides to change its name. What the ramifications and impact are going forward. The NFL franchise deadline comes and goes. What players signed and which are still playing their season out on the franchise tag. We'll have those, the Hoodwood Hot 5, Phat, Head Slap, and a veritable plethora of sports information, takes and opinions. This is Sports from the Hoodwood. Fasten your seatbelts and let's go.
You're tuned in to Sports from the Hoodwood, the internet's foremost location for the most honest, unfiltered commentary and insight on the world of sports. Now, once again, here's Hoodwood's hometown hero, KJ Green.
Greetings from the Hoodwood, where, as you can see, the jersey sets came in. You have the road jersey, the home jersey, and the alternate third. Everyone has to have an alternate third, but they look good, and I look good in them. I'm your man, KJ Green, welcoming you to another edition of Sports from the Hoodwood. And starting off is a team that I always thought their jerseys were pretty cool, but Washington is going to be changing their name, and I'm praying that they don't change away from the burgundy and gold, because I think those names, those colors are pretty sharp. But it's the name that I had the problem with, and apparently enough pressure was brought to bear that Daniel Snyder was forced to concede that the name had to be changed. Now this comes just years after he said there was no way that Washington was going to change their name. Not going to happen. Well, when you have FedEx and Pepsi and Amazon and Walmart all saying, you know, we're pulling sponsorship dollars from you. The latter two, Amazon and Walmart, both saying that they weren't going to carry Washington's jerseys or paraphernalia. This being brought to bear, no matter what color you're wearing, it's all about the green. And Daniel Snyder basically saw a lot of that green possibly wafting out the window. So he decides, well, in the best interest, the name change will have to be in the Redskins' name will be retired. And this scribe thinks not a moment too soon. I personally have said before, I want Warriors for Washington's new nickname. I have no problem with that. Warriors is fine. Even though if someone says Warriors, come out and play, I always think of that moniker when someone says Warriors. But in any case, Washington will be changing its name. Now, what it'll be, how long it'll take for everything to get changed up, those are questions that still have yet to be answered. I don't think that they're going to be able to change everything in time enough for the 2020 season, if they play a 2020 season. And that's a story all into itself. Washington really now is trying to get out in front of this whole name change thing. Now, this is the second franchise in Washington that has changed its name. If you recall, in the late 90s, the then Washington Bullets changed their name to the Washington Wizards, as to not have the name Bullets be connotated with the violence that had been perpetrated in our nation's capital. But you have to also think that team was once named the Baltimore Bullets before moving some 35-40 miles southeast to the greater Washington area, first becoming the Capitol Bullets, which I thought was a stupid name, and then becoming the Washington Bullets in the mid to late 70s, and the name that had for 20 some odd years until changing to the name you now know as the Washington Buzzards. I mean Wizards. Sorry about that. The Wizards, the way they play sometimes are like Buzzards, but that's neither here nor there. The name change in Washington seems to be the fad, and the only team that hasn't differentiated its name in any time, shape, or form are the Capitals, the hockey team. But there's the only team that's been winning lately, so I don't think they're really going to need to change their name anyway. Going forward, is this a precursor to other teams changing their names? You have already discussions in Cleveland about the Indians changing their name. They already changed their logo from the grinning chief Wahoo to just a block C. Now, there are some people that are saying that that team name should stay the same. It should still be the Indians or the Tribe. There are some people who want to see that name change, saying that it's derogatory. There is just as many vocal saying that the name should stay the same, with just that mascot or logo having been taken out of circulation. Me, myself, I'm kind of ambivalent about it. I've always pretty much called them the Tribe because it's just a shorthand for the Indians. Indians and Indian nicknames have gone by pretty much fallen out of favor. There are some teams, though, that are holding on to those names. North Dakota still being the Sioux, Florida State still being the Seminoles. But there are some teams that didn't even like Warriors. And Warriors, I thought, was that should have stayed. Personally, there's a line that needs to be drawn. And I spoke on this last week in my final word, that how far do you go with political correctness? Chiefs, Braves, who knows how long it'll be before someone starts coming after those. But Washington Redskins had to go. I just didn't like the name. The name, I think it was a derogatory name for a team. Now, one other thing. Now, the iconic logo of Washington's team with the brave head. If you keep it as Warriors, do you have a problem with the logo staying the same? Or do you think they should go back to the spear that was prominent in their logo in the late 60s and early 70s? Or just the R? Well, you can't say the R because you're not going to say Redskins anymore. Maybe a W with a circle around it. There's so many logistical questions that need to be answered. And there's so many details that still need to be worked out. Washington will have its hands full renaming its football team. Let's take our first time out. Come back and look at Franchise Day. The franchise tender day was July 15th. There were some players who signed for big money, but there are others that are going to have to wait to the end of the 2020 season to see if they can get to lock up that long-term deal. Who got paid big and who are still waiting with their hands out. Sports from Hoodwood continues after this.
Into Sports from the Hoodwood, the internet's foremost location for no-nonsense commentary, insight, and opinions on the world of sports. Here now live in living color, black by popular demand, your host, KJ Green.
You are back in the Hoodwood. My name is KJ Green, and just a little bit. July 15th was the franchise deadline for teams to sign the teams that they had designated as franchise players. And about 15 players had been designated by their respective teams as franchise tags. And one of the most notable, of course, was Dak Prescott. Now, Dak Prescott did sign his franchise tender, but with the July 15th deadline, they had that deadline to sign him to a longer-term deal. Now, there were a NFL record high 15 players that were on the were designated as franchise players, and 11 of those players are playing on their franchise tag. They either just didn't sign, and by NFL rule, they're able to be just playing on the one-year tender, which is the top 5 of their position. And you had some of the most notable players that were listed as you see here in the list here, playing on the franchise tag this season. Jacksonville's Yannick Nakoa, New England's Joe Thuney, Washington's Brandon Scherf, Cincinnati's A.J. Green, notable as one who was franchise tag, even though he hasn't played in the latter part of almost 2 seasons. Hunter Henry of the Chargers, Bud Dupree of Pittsburgh, New York Giants' Leonard Williams, Shaquille Barrett of Tampa Bay, Baltimore's Matthew Judon, and Minnesota's Anthony Harris round out the 11 players that were franchised but did not sign, either did not sign the 1-year franchise tag and did not sign a long-term deal, or did not sign and are just going to play off that 1 year. Now, some of the notable players that did sign before the July 15th deadline, Tennessee's Derrick Henry reached a 4-year, $50 million deal with the Tennessee Titans. Chris Jones agreed to a 4-year contract on Tuesday. The franchise tag did apply to Kenyon Drake of Arizona, who was given a transition tag, which means he can negotiate with other teams, but the Cardinals have the right of first refusal. And if that team does sign Kenyon Drake and the Cardinals do not match, the Cardinals will get 2 first-round draft picks for as compensation for losing Kenyon Drake. But since the franchise tag was implemented in 1993, the most players to play a full season under the tag is 9 in 2009 and 2012. But 11 this season will be playing under the franchise tag, the exclusive franchise tag. Now, of course, everybody knows Dak Prescott, who was unable to reach a long-term agreement, signed his $31.4 million franchise tender, and will, like I said, will not be able to, him as well as any of the other players who are playing on the franchise tag, cannot negotiate or sign any kind of long-term deal until the season is over. Then the whole mess starts all over again. You're going to have these teams who have been saying, players who have said they do not want to be franchised. And you have players that may be playing maybe a little bitter because they want long-term deals. They want long-term security. They want to be able to play and not worry if they're playing for their supper, so to speak. Snuffy might want to be paid in dog treats, but these players want to be paid big money to play a violent and dangerous sport. And you have the risk, and when the team say they're taking the risk, if they pony up money, something happens to them, like, say, what's happened to A.J. Green, who has played 1 game in the last 2 seasons, though he was franchised. Now, rumors will continue to float about if there's going to be long-term deals. Now, Derrick Henry signing his 4-year, $50 million deal. Myles Garrett of the Browns signing a 5-year, $125 million deal with a lot of that money guaranteed up front. Many of the players want long-term security like what Derrick Henry or Myles Garrett got. Now, Dak Prescott gambled a little bit. He turned down a 4-year deal that the Cowboys were wanting to give. I beg your pardon, they were wanting to give a 5-year deal. But Dak Prescott wants to be able to hit free agency a second time before he's 30. Keep in mind, Dak Prescott is still under 25. Many people feel that the Cowboys are gambling by telling Prescott, well, you were only a 4th-round pick. We don't really want to pay you like a franchise. But knowing that another team will be willing to step up and throw a lot of money at Dak Prescott is making the Cowboys, and most notably Jerry Jones, hedge their bets. It's going to be interesting to see as the season goes on which players play well, play for a quote-unquote big time contract, and then end up cashing in. Most of these players can only be franchised once or twice. We'll take our second time out and come back with the Hoodwood Hot 5. Live topics in the stew this week. As Sports from the Hoodwood rolls on, Sports from the Hoodwood continues after this. Hi everyone, I'm KJ Green. If you're looking to reach a broad audience for your advertising dollar, look no further than where you are right now. You can advertise right here in the Hoodwood. If you need spots created as well, Black Banner Productions Enterprises can create commercial content that drives sales and gets results. You can send your inquiries to ads at blackbannerproductions.com. Black Banner Productions and Enterprises. Sounds, ideas, and images of the 21st century.
You're tuned in to Sports from the Hoodwood, the internet's premier location for no-nonsense commentary, insight, and opinion on the world of sports. Here now, the man with 100% certified fresh taste, your host, KJ Green.
And on we go in the Hoodwood. My name is KJ Green, and this is the segment of the show where I discuss 5 quick topics. It's called the Hoodwood Hot 5. Let's lead off with Zion, the man-child of the New Orleans Pelicans, left the Orlando bubble to take care of a personal family matter. Now, we in the Hoodwood hope everything is well with the phenom rookie from Duke. But now the question is, because he's left the bubble, and whenever it takes him however long for him to take care of this family business, now when he comes back, he has to be in quarantine and isolation for up to 14 days. How will this affect the playoff race? Now, keep in mind, the Pelicans are still right there on the fringe of being in and out of the NBA playoff race. And if Williamson, who leads the team in pretty much everything for the Pellies, if he misses significant time, how is that going to affect the Pelicans down the stretch? Because you know there's only 8 games left. And it could really throw a monkey wrench in the Pelicans' playoff hopes. And you know the Pelicans are going to be sacrificial lambs. But to make the playoffs in their first year with Williamson could go a long way to stabilizing that franchise. Keeping in the basketball theme, I know, you've already sent me emails, kjgreen@blackbannerproduction.com. I always say, I'm going to dig in the mailbag and just read some of these letters off that some of these people have been sending me. But I was getting all sorts of static. You said Overseas Elite was going to win the TBT title. And I said I put my money down on them because my man KJ said Overseas Elite was going to win. They didn't. Okay, I'm sorry. Golden Eagles were just that good. Golden Eagles won the basketball tournament 78-73, and they were basically the best team to have never won the basketball tournament in its 6 years of existence. They have the most wins, the second most wins of a team that has, and the most wins of a team that had won the title. But when Travis Diener hit the 3-pointer to hit the Elam ending and basically send the Golden Eagles off into a frenzy, winning their first title. I know, Overseas Elite, they didn't even get to the final. They were bounced in the semifinals again. They have that semifinals bugaboo, but it was the thing. The Golden Eagles had to basically dodge this team a couple of times to get to the final. They did it last year and didn't win, and they did it this year. They beat Overseas Elite and got to the final where they did win. Our third topic this week, James Harden was diagnosed with COVID-19 and spent some time in isolation. He appears to have recovered. And the question now is, can he finish off winning the scoring title? He has averaged 34.4 points a game. James Harden will undoubtedly win the scoring title. He has to score 11 points in his final 8 games to clinch it over Bradley Beal, who his Washington Wizards are not in the bubble. Their season's done. But James Harden basically is an all but mortal lock to win the NBA scoring title scoring over 34 points a game, and 6 of the last 7 NBA scoring title champions have finished with over 30 points a game. James Harden looking to win his 3rd in as many seasons. Our 4th topic, kind of on the gossip column page more than anything, Danica and A-Rod look like they've called it quits. Now, having been luckless in love, and I already know how it is when women decide they don't want to be around you anymore. They stop following you on Twitter, they stop following you on Facebook, they don't return your calls, they don't. No, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna get bitter. I don't want to get bitter. Danica, call me. Call her brother. Since you ain't with the Packers, come with the Vikings, baby. Yeah, I'm making a shameless plug, I know. But it seems that Danica Patrick and Aaron Rodgers, who were quite the item for the last 2 years, have called it quits. And like I said, Danica, call her brother. This seems like something more to be on the gossip column than a sports talk show. So let's move on. Our 5th topic, are you ready for baseball? Finally, we see it's been on the horizon for so long. Now it's close enough to grab and touch real baseball, American Major League Baseball. Tuesday looks like it may be the first day of the preseason game, which all the teams will play one preseason game and then jump right into the 60-game schedule. It's going to be interesting. It's really going to be interesting. You're going to see how much rust these players have. I mean, you're picking up in late July, and the players are going to be playing like it's March and April. But you're not going to have time for any kind of slumps. 60 games is going to be here and there, gone before you know it. And it's going to be interesting to watch the rest of, or I should say, this shortened season, this shortened sprint. But baseball is on the horizon, and I just love it. I'm just like, I mean, no knock against the KBO. The Korean Baseball Organization they've played fine the whole year. I mean, I love the names of the teams, the Heroes, and the Doosan Bears, and the LG Twins, not to be confused with Minnesota Twins. But the teams, they play well, and they play hard. It's kind of weird watching them in front of empty stands, but there's nothing like Major League Baseball, and it's going to be interesting to see how they play. Let's take our final timeout of the day, come back with the Phat Dap, Head Slap, and the final word from the Wood. Sports from the Hoodwood heads down the home stretch after this.
You're tuned in to Sports from the Hoodwood, the internet's foremost location for the most honest insight, thorough analysis, and unfiltered opinion on the world of sports. Now, once again, here's the man of the hour, After Hours, your host, KJ Green.
Running third and headed for home here in the Hoodwood. My name is KJ Green. We always do finish up strong with the Phat Dap, Head Slap, and the final word from the Wood. This week's Phat Dap go to my beloved FCC. You see the poster on the back wall, that's my soccer team. And yes, I know they're an expansion team and they're going through growing pains, but they got their first win of the 2020 campaign in the MLS's back tournament, defeating Atlanta United 1-0 on Thursday morning. Yes, the game kicked off at 9 a.m. on Thursday morning, but I'm not gonna knock it. Who cares that Atlanta United had only 9 players because 2 of their players got sent off with red cards? Who cares that FCC struggled to get on the board even with playing with a man up? They got their first win. That's all that matters to me. Yes, they lost to the Columbus Crew 4-0. Columbus Crew fans, I don't want to hear it. Yes, they probably will struggle to stay on the same field as the New York Red Bulls and get out of group stage. But they got what I wanted them to get. 1 win, just 1, in the MLS's back tournament. I am happy for the orange and blue. They managed to do their due and get a win. So fat dap to FCC. Our head slap of the week goes to A-Rod, Alex Rodriguez, who is part of a conglomerate that is trying to buy the New York Mets. That's not a head slap, though it could be. Who wants to buy the Mets? But still, he has been vocal in statements about saying that there should be a salary cap in Major League Baseball. And the Major League Baseball Union sent a strong rebuke to A-Rod for his statements. Now, keep in mind, wasn't this the same guy that signed a 10-year, $252 million contract with the Texas Rangers in 2001? Yes. Wasn't he the same guy who signed a 10-year, $275 million contract, reworking his contract with the New York Yankees? Yes. Now, he wants a salary cap? Are you serious? Yeah, I'm hating on the brother because he's married to J-Lo. Oh, so fun. But neither here nor there. The thing is, he made all this money. Now, he doesn't want anybody else to make money. What kind of mess is that? Please make that make sense. Let's think about that. Head slap to Alex Rodriguez. Hater extreme. And now, without much further ado, let's go on to the final word from the wood. Having done this show for about 3 years, I have been someone that most people say is a sports journalist, someone who has their finger on the pulse of sports. That pulse has been very thready and weak over the last 3.5 months because of this coronavirus and this pandemic that has been punching our nation in the gut. Sports has been something that has unified us all. No matter if it's unified people against one team, unified team against everybody else, or just a casual fan. Sports has been the thing that has kept us as a unification of this nation. Without sports, there have been less discussion and less people who have been actually sitting down. Sports has had a calming effect. It always has had a calming effect. Yes, it can inflame passions, but at the end of the day, we can all sit at a sports bar, share some wings, have a beer, and laugh or tease each other about our fortunes or good or bad of the favorite teams or the teams that we love to hate. Have we taken sports for granted? I think we have. The thing that has unified us all has been gone, more or less, for the past 3.5 months. There have been spits and spurts, NASCAR, your boxing, but the major team sports, MLB, NBA, NHL, have basically been sidelined and are just getting back started. Even though their seasons will be truncated, they will be restarted. The thing that worries me is come the fall, we may not have football at all, college or pro. With the way the pandemic has been running, that it may not be safe for players to play in close quarters, in close contact for an extended amount of time. And given the cooler weather, this may ramp up the virus even worse. Speculation has run rampant. But football is the one thing that has yet to be wholly affected by this pandemic. Yet. Notice I said the word yet. Can you go 3-4 months without football in its college, in its pro form, in the truly organic form? I made the comment at my day job. What would I do on Saturdays if I didn't have, first, my beloved Bearcats or other college football to watch on Saturday? What would I do if I didn't have fantasy football, something I've been playing for the last 30 years to speculate? What would I do without pro football? I realize how much I've taken sports in general and football for granted. Have you? That is something that we are really going to have to work at and work through. This pandemic has not showed any signs of slowing, and I pray that it does. If it's touched you or yours, I pray for a speedy recovery. But when this is all over with, when we look back at it with head shakes and rueful shoulder shrugs, we will have realized how much we've taken sports for granted and how much we should really value and cherish a pastime, a hobby, something that's leisure, and how much pleasure it gave us. That is something that, going forward, we really shouldn't have to take for granted and probably never will again. And that is the final word from the word. And with the music coming up in the background, you know that means your time in the Hoodwood is just about done, and I thank you so much for your visit again this week. Now, the email for the show is kjgreen@blackbanditproductions.com. You can send me emails on show topics, questions, comments, and criticism. I do welcome your correspondence, and I try to respond to every email anytime you need. In case this podcast is on a number of sites, including Amazon Prime, where the video version is hosted, as well as iTunes, and Spotify, just to name a few. Check the local list of show playing podcast review. Now, the show site itself is hoodwoodsports.podbean.com. The show's back catalog, as well as the music soundtrack of the show, is the Hoodwood Hustle. The audio version of the show is back as far back as the I'm also on Facebook at Black Bandit Productions Enterprises. I'm also on Twitter, KJ Green. Down now, but it should be soon. Special thanks to Rage Patrons for the production of the show. And that's that, fellow sports fans. Until next time out in the Hoodwood, I'm KJ Green.
Sports from the Hoodwood
Is a Black Bandit Productions and Enterprises presentation
of a 551 Audio and Films production.